Good morning. We are really getting into the cold winter season here in the Midwest. Our typical highs are about 50 to 60, so we still got a ways to go to get to true winter, but it is chilly now and I am all for it. I love all the baking and everything I get to do in my kitchen during the cold winter months. And this morning, we are going to make some sourdough bread rolls. Especially with Thanksgiving coming up, I wanted to try my hand at making some homemade rolls. These are also sourdough rolls. I don't believe I mentioned that. So we need a half cup of our active and bubbly sourdough starter. And then for the sugar portion, I'm using honey. I'm trying to get away from using refined white sugars in recipes, so I'm substituting a lot with honey or maple syrup. And also, I have really enjoyed, I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but I have started to transfer my honey after I buy it, and it's in a plastic jar. I put it into a mason jar, glass, so then once it crystallizes, I don't feel so bad putting it in warm water or microwaving it to get those crystals melted. I just don't like the idea of melting plastic into my honey. So that's what I use a lot when recipes call for sugar. Then we also need warm water, melted butter, salt or sea salt, all-purpose flour, and then we'll need an egg wash later. Even though I'm really busy throughout the week as I still work a 9-to-5 job, I do try, especially on the weekends, to make a lot of stuff from scratch, homemade, prep for the week ahead if at all possible. I know sometimes it just gets so busy that you don't really have time for that, but ever since when I got pregnant, I really started to think more about my overall health because, I'm in charge of now this baby that was inside of me and now on the outside of me, making sure that they're healthy, they thrive. So I started digging more into ingredients that I'm serving, and I really am trying to get away from a lot of processed foods. There's just not a lot of good things in those. So weekends are when I can prep and really try to serve as healthy or versions of healthy. I'm not the epitome of health, that's for sure. But I really try to figure out some homemade food that we can serve and enjoy and love versus eating out all the time. I recently started making my homemade ranch after I went to the grocery store one day and I had to buy a $9 bottle of ranch, which is absurd. I was like, I bet I can make this at home by myself and taste even better. And you know what? I was right, because this ranch recipe that I have is phenomenal. It's way better than Hidden Valley. It is so good. And you can find it on my blog at Our Family Cooks if you are interested in that. But it seriously is so delicious. And with the outrageous prices of groceries, I was like, I'm not paying $9 for ranch any longer when I can make this at home for a fraction of the price. I do actually have a video. I'll link it here for this homemade ranch, walking kind of more step by step, and also has a cost breakdown of how much it costs to make it at home versus buying it in the store. So feel free to check that one out as well. Our dough, so the bread dough that we're mixing, it needs to knead and be in the mixer for 10 to 15 minutes. And I've checked it a couple times. It is looking still a little sticky and it's not passing the window pane test. So I am going to add a little more flour and then see if that helps, because I don't want to over knead this. Okay, so our dough ball is finally done. I think that extra added flour really did help. So we're going to transfer this into a oiled bowl. I don't typically grease or oil my bowls, but this recipe, since I've never made it before, says to, so I'm going to go ahead and do what it says just to be smart. And then we'll cover it and I'm going to leave it set in the oven for 8 to 12 hours because it needs to double in size and rise. So we won't be baking these until later. And also, since it is the morning, I am going to whip up a batch of homemade sourdough pancakes really quick before I go get my toddler up. And I do have some pumpkin puree in my fridge, so I might make these pumpkin pancakes since, we are getting really close to Thanksgiving and it's fall. So yeah, I'm gonna do some pumpkin pancakes. The recipe to these is also linked in my description if you want to check it out. But yeah, these are just so good. I probably make these every other weekend. So my sourdough starter must have been super active today, even though it was a discard starter, because my pancakes are the fluffiest they've ever been. And they're delicious. So our bread dough has been rising in the oven for 5 to 6 hours now. I did take it out so that we could make dinner, but it got a really good rise on it. My husband let his intrusive thoughts take over, and he slapped the dough while it was rising, just completely innocently, did not think anything of it, and it deflated in front of his eyes. We were all like, oh my gosh. But it honestly was not that big of a deal. It was more funny than anything. Like, you totally just let your intrusive thought take over. But anyways, so I am going to form my dough, get this out of the bowl, make sure to flour your surface. And then we're going to form this into 8 to 9 separate little buns. We'll add them into a baking dish. I'm using glass, and then spray it with whatever you spray it with. I'm going to spray it with avocado spray so they don't stick to each other and can come out pretty easily. Once all the dough balls are formed and you have them all in your baking dish, let them set on the oven, just on top of the oven, for a good hour to 2 hours. You need them to double in size, and then we will be putting them in the oven. As you can see, these doubled in size and they're looking so good. So we're going to bake them. And before we bake them, we want to add some egg wash over the top to give them a nice golden color. Y'all, check out these buns. I'm so happy with my very first ever roll making experience. Went so well. I was super nervous when it came out of the oven that it was going to be one massive roll, but look how good these pull apart. Oh my gosh, heaven. And they taste so good. Make sure to check out the recipe. Try it for yourself at home. Oh, these are so delicious. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks, y'all.